What's up, YouTube? This is BlackMoonDragon here, and welcome back to Urban Legend Busters. I'm here with my best friend,
KvChaosGamer.
And today, we thought we'd take on the creepypasta, The Showers, and I am really excited for this one. It's a really good story, probably one of the best creepypastas ever written. I would go that far. Don't you think it's one of the better ones out there, Chaos?
Yeah, it definitely is. Oh gosh, I can't remember when the last time I read it was. But just from what I remember, it was actually pretty good, and I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorites. Probably wouldn't say it's in my top 5, but I would definitely put it more in the top 10.
Yeah. I guess, just a little premise or background information for our newer viewers. Here on Urban Legend Busters, what we do is we take various myths, urban legends, and creepypastas, and we basically try to either prove or disprove them by going through the information, some facts we find, etc. And as a standard rule, we do not use the supernatural as a grounds to disprove things. We approach things with an open mind, assume that ghosts are real, monsters are a possibility, etc. So any time we disprove something on this channel, it's going to be through other means, basically, like inconsistencies with the story, etc. But all that aside, I think we should get started. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so The Showers is an interesting story. It's about a school student, essentially, who's really into myths and urban legends, especially the scary ones. And he travels all over the country a lot. He never stays in one place too long. He's always moving. And in one of the places he moved to, he remembers this one teacher that he really liked. And he said that he was the kind of teacher that really kept you engaged with the class and was really fun to interact with. And he said on Halloween night, or I guess it would be day since it's a school day, the teacher tells the class of a scary experience that he once had. That while he was in, I believe it was Broken Bow, Nebraska, that they got lost and came upon this house with a silo nearby. And while they were exploring, they enter through a cellar. And it's very creepy, of course, the typical stuff that you'd see in a horror movie, like flickering lights and stuff. And eventually the lights burst, and I think there might be one light that dimly shines, and in the dim light that they can see, they start seeing 10 figures that appear to belong to these really sickly looking children that are wearing tattered clothes, and their hair has been growing out. They appear to haven't bathed or anything, and that's more or less where the teacher ends the story. And years later, the student runs into his old teacher at a bar, and the teacher has been drinking a lot, and he brings up the story he told him, and the teacher tells him that the story really happened and that one of his friends actually died during that story. And, you know, it kind of piques the student's interest a little, but scares him at the same time. Shortly after their meeting, the teacher ends up dying. But anyway, eventually the student goes out on a vacation with one of his buddies, and they end up in Nebraska, and they decide to go to Broken Boat to see if it's if the story is real, if they can find the house that the guy mentioned in his story. And they don't have any luck, but eventually they stumble upon a house by chance and think, oh man, this has to be the house, until they realize there isn't a silo by it, like the one described in the story. Anyway, while exploring the house, the protagonist of the story falls through the floor, and his friend goes back to the car to get some rope to free him, and the guy's in pain while he's down in that hole. I mean, he probably dislocated his knee, and he thinks he has a concussion. And while he's there, he starts noticing things from the story, like the shower heads that the teacher described in the story. And he starts seeing the children, and he's scared to death, and he crawls until he finds the cellar door and is banging on it, trying to get out, and he hears a voice that he thinks is his friend, and the voice starts telling him to tell him what he sees. And at some point, as the reader, you get the impression that this voice isn't his friend. The voice tells him, just look at it, tell me what you see. And the guy is just breaking down and freaking out, and finally the cellar door opens and he's outside. And his friend comes out the front door. So they get to safety, and to this day the narrator claims that he doesn't know if what he saw was real or if it was a hallucination brought on by the concussion. And that's the gist of the story. So, Chaos, any thoughts?
Well, I don't even know where to begin, because like I said, it's been a while since I read the story, and I don't even know where, in all honesty, I don't even know where to begin on this one.
This is a hard one, I'll admit. Okay, well, I will say that I did do some research on various stuff mentioned in the story, so,
No, I'm just gonna let you go ahead and explain that part, and then I'll get to mine. Is that alright?
That's fine. Okay, so one thing I've noticed in the story is that at some point he says that he went to the Poconos mountain range in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did some research, and the Poconos mountain range is actually in Pennsylvania. So, now, there are some things to take into consideration, as this fact doesn't flat out debunk the story per se. I mean, it is fairly close to New Jersey, actually. In fact, some people in New Jersey will drive by car to Pennsylvania to see the range. Yeah. So, it is possible that the guy just made a mistake when he was writing. Another thing that kind of jumped out at me is, it's a good story, but it almost seems too good to be true, if that makes sense. That it seems like there's a structure to it, Like, as if this was a pre-planned story, but not something that just happened and this guy happened to write about it. It seemed a little too perfect, but then again, I can't really use this to discredit the story either. Your thoughts?
Alright, well, to be honest, oh gosh, you know what, this is just what I'm gonna say. Could this story be real? I don't know. I mean, there's been weird stuff that has been discovered. Not just here in the US, but in other countries. And it's stuff more along the lines as what is described in the story. You know, like some sort of secret underground, like,
Shower
stuff.
room?
Like, stuff like that has been discovered before. While some of it may have not gotten, you know, like, mass media attention, you know, it's out there. You just gotta look for it on the internet.
So you think something like this is possible?
Oh, yeah, I mean, stuff like this. I mean, as far as the children part, I mean, that I don't know, but I know, you know, secret, like, underground structures like that have been discovered, and with a lot of them being in places, like, you wouldn't even think, like, there would be. Like, it could be the most, like, you could pass by a barn, like, somewhere way out in the country area, and you wouldn't even realize that maybe couple, like, maybe 10, 15 miles away from it, there's a nuclear silo.
Well, on the thing that you said about the children, I would like to point out something. Bear in mind that they were children when the professor told this story, and that supposedly took place years before the professor told the story, and then years after telling the story, the guy supposedly comes into contact with children again, so there's no indication that the children aged. However, the story doesn't make this clear, and it's kind of left up to reader interpretation that maybe the children are ghosts. But another possibility, you know, for the ultra-realists out there, is that, remember, in the story he says that the house he found didn't exactly match the one in the teacher's story, and a possibility could have been that it wasn't the same house, but the concussion may have caused him to hallucinate the stuff because he was thinking about the teacher's story at the time it happened. So, chances are there may have not been any showers there, and there may have not been any aggressive, malnourished children. It could have all just been in his head as a hallucination induced by the accident that he was in. Because remember, he had a concussion from falling through the floor.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess, like, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
But I think one thing I would probably kind of like to, you know, mention is, you know, probably the children part. Whether they were ghosts, like, I don't know, we'll probably never know. But if they were actual children, and this is, of course, going to be, you know, the big question, how did they get there? Why were they there?
Yeah.
The kind of answer to that question is, like, there's multiple possibilities. Like let's say we go with the, you know, with that they were real children. We may never know. I mean, there's so many ways, and a lot of them are all sad and pretty scary. You know, of how they could have possibly ended up there. and who was taking care of them. Again, we're probably never going to know that part. But if no one was really taking care of them, I just don't really see how they would have been able to survive.
Or why
let's just assume that however they ended up there, let's say like maybe the person just whoever did it was no longer there.
Okay.
I just don't see how children at that age, and let's just assume they were taken at a young age, or they ended up there at a young age, there would have been no way they would have been able to survive on their own. And not know, like, oh, well, this is food, or, like, this is something I can use to eat with. At that age, you're not really taught a lot of that stuff yet. You're still learning.
Okay, so I think those are good points. I gotta really hand it to the writer here. You know, the other two stories that we did prior to this one were easy to debunk, but this guy really made it challenging. Anyway, I had another point here that I was trying to remember.
And to be honest, I don't think there's really going to be a whole lot we're going to be able to do on this one, but you know, because you know, we're going to try our best.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that this has been a short video, but this one is really difficult. In fact, I will say that of all the pastas we've looked at, this is actually the hardest one to debunk. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that this one almost made me throw in the towel and say, you know what, I can't prove or disprove it. That is until I came across one little detail in my outside research that totally blows the lid off of it. And that is, I found the author of this story.
Wait, what? You did?
Yeah. By the way, guys, we do our research independently. So, see, even my best friend didn't know I had this even my best friend didn't know I have this trump card waiting.
Okay, and just to be honest with everyone that's watching right now, like some of you may not know, but none of this is scripted. This is all our genuine reactions, including mine. Even I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out right now.
Yeah. I was looking everywhere in this story was so hard to go through to find something that I could use, some little hint to either confirm or disprove it, and I wasn't finding any. But then, lo and behold, I found out that this story is actually a work of fiction by a guy named Dylan Sindeller. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The guy's but yeah, he wrote the story. He has his own YouTube channel. He has his own Facebook account, his own Twitter account. You know, he's just a normal guy, not the nervous, paranoid wreck that the narrator becomes at the end of the story. But yeah, he's a New Jersey-based author. He's an amateur filmmaker. You know, he's just a normal guy. And if I hadn't found this bit of information, I wouldn't have been able to debunk this story. So, you know, my final thoughts on this is that this is a really well done story. So much that for a while I actually almost believed this story. This was almost the first story to stump us. But my final conclusion is that it's a complete work of fiction, and the only reason I was able to come to this conclusion was the fact that I found out who wrote it. If it wasn't for that, I gotta hand it to this guy. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to give this the busted verdict. Your final thoughts?
Well, wow, that kind of, you know, that kind of changes, some things. Like, here's what I'm gonna say. The story is good. It's real good. It's well written, and I like it. And like I said, it's definitely in my top 10. But is the story true? Well, like I said, well, no, it's not. It never happened. But could something like this, well, like probably not like what's kind of described in the story, but what could something like that have happened? It's quite possible. So I'm gonna say like the story is busted because it is a work of fiction, but something like that could possibly have happened because, like I said, there's been strange underground structures that have been discovered before. So
basically your final analysis or final summary is, could there somewhere in the world be like an abandoned, or not even abandoned, even an underground shack full of malnourished children? Oh well, yeah, probably. That's what human smuggling is. But did this story happen? Nah. Well, this has been a short story, but I think that just about summarizes everything we've got on it. Kudos to the author for making this difficult. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This is BlackMoonDragon here with
KvChaosGamer.
Have a wonderful day, and
bye for now.